Alright guys, in today's little video I'm going to be showing you 3 ways on how to do a parasitic draw. So all you're going to need for this is a multimeter. Suggested to have alligator clips, and you're also going to need an implant. Now these 3 ways are just 3 basic ways on how to test for parasitic draw. You don't need the implant, but it is just a lot quicker and it's also a little less invasive. So the first step in any parasitic drain test is to remove the battery negative cable from the battery and connect your multimeter in series with your black lead going onto the battery post and your red lead going onto the battery terminal. Now this is for the first way to do a parasitic drain test. So the first thing you're going to do is, as you just seen, I just removed my battery negative cable. Next, you're going to want to take your multimeter and you're going to want to bring it all the way over to the amp setting, which is right there on my meter. Next, you're going to want to hook up your meter onto for measuring amperage. Now to hook up your meter for measuring amperage, you're going to take your common, you're going to stick it into your black lead and stick it into your common port or your ground port, and you're going to take your positive and you're going to take your positive and you're going to stick your positive. You're going to take your positive and you're going to stick your positive into the amperage port. Now we're going to be using my 20 amps measurement. Now we're going to take the black, we're going to stick it onto the negative of the battery, and then we're going to take the terminal and we're going to stick the red onto the terminal. Now make sure that you are hooked up onto amperage, or else this is not going to work. And you're going to end up blowing your fuse inside your meter. So as you can see, I have an amp draw right now of 5.75 amps. Now the 5.75 amps that you see on the screen here is an actual initial amperage spike when you connect your leads, because all your modules are turning on, so it is normal to see. Now after about, I'd say, a good 30-40 seconds, you're going to see that the amperage is actually supposed to drop to a more acceptable level, and then after between 15 minutes to 45 minutes, the amperage draw should go into specification. Now the specification for an amperage draw is anywhere from 20 milliamps to 70 milliamps. So as you can see, my system went down to 0.03. Now I'm actually creating a draw into this car just for this test. And now I just simulated that like if the vehicle went back into sleep. Unless your vehicle is heavily equipped with electronic control modules. So basically, if your vehicle has a lot of power options, this number will actually be higher. So, as you can see, I have 5 amps of current draw. So, in order to see what circuit is affected, the easiest way to do this is come over to the fuse box, which is right here, and then you would actually end up pulling one fuse at a time until the circuit, until you see your amperage on the meter go down, and then that would be the circuit that you would focus on. Now as you can tell, this is pretty invasive. You have to remove your battery terminal, and then you have to hook up your leads to the battery and then your battery terminal, and then you have to wait. When you can actually, there are 2 other ways to do this, and they are just a lot easier. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Now it is important to remember that your amp draw might be coming from the junction block at the engine, or it might actually be coming from the BCM or the IPM, depending on your vehicle.
And so you're gonna have to pull the fuses from this area, and you're actually gonna have to pull, if you pull the fuses from this area and nothing changes, you're gonna have to take and you're gonna have to pull the fuses from your BCM or your IPM inside the vehicle, just to eliminate those areas. So the other way that you can test this is by going down the line of your fuses with your multimeter leads. Now, the way to do this is take your multimeter, set it up into millivolts or volts. You can use either one, but millivolts is just a little bit more accurate for this test. And you're going to go down the line, and you're going to see which fuse is pulling out voltage.
So when the vehicle is at rest and all your control modules are supposed to be asleep, there should be very, very minimal millivolts that are being drawn from the fuses. And that's what this test is going to show.
So now I'm just going to go down the line. So as you can see right here, I have 16.49 millivolts. So what that is telling me is that there is an amperage draw onto that. And now I just took and I turned off my lights, because I'm just turning on my parking lights in order to create the drain. And you can see that it went down to 0 millivolts. Now if I turn it back on, you will see that it's back up to 16.5. So that's another way in order to verify that that you have an amperage draw onto your vehicle. Now the third and last way to check for amperage drain is by using an amp clamp. So you're going to want to take and hook up your amp clamp for measuring millivolts, just like in the last test. You're going to want to set it onto 20 amps DC. You're going to want to zero it. Put it back around your negative battery cable. And as you can see, we have 508 millivolts. And when I turn it off, we have 8, and when I turn off my parking lights, I have 7.92 millivolts. And don't forget that this is equal out to the amount of amperage that is in the system. So we're going to multiply it by 10, and we're going to move our decimal over 1, and that's going to give me my amperage that was onto it. Now, if you remember in series, we actually had 5.3 amps. And that is what's happening here. It's the exact same thing. We have, well, now we have 4.8, but as you can see, it is a very accurate test. And I didn't have to take anything apart, which is what I love.
Now note that in this test you still have to pull the fuses in order to verify which circuit is being affected.
So with that being said, I'm going to leave you guys with this information, and hopefully it helps somebody, and I hope you guys have a good night.